proud to partner with the Cowal Highland Gathering to bring you a discussion with the 3 current world champions. We're sad we can't all be together at Cowal this weekend, but we're grateful these unique circumstances have given our community so many amazing discussions with top-level dancers and teachers. Without further ado, here are your 3 current world champions, Rosey, Beret Dernbach, and Marielle Lesperance. The first thing I want to talk about is some of your earliest memories at Cowal. Marielle, you've obviously been going a bit longer than the rest of us, so I want to hear what was your first year like.
So that was a long time ago for me. First year at Cowal, I think, was probably about 20 years ago, but I don't remember a whole lot about the actual dancing bit. I would say the stuff I remember the most is just kind of like after we finished dancing, the hanging around at the game site with friends and just like going to all the stalls and going on the little like bouncy slide that they had, eating the haggis baked potatoes. That's kind of like my earliest memory. I don't know.
Beret, that wasn't that long ago for you. What was your first year like?
So I was 14 for my first one. So that was only like 2017, a couple years ago. And it was, I don't really, even though it was a couple years ago, I don't remember much of that day. I remember just being so excited that I actually qualified for Worlds, because I went in there with no idea of how I was going to do, no really expectations. My goal was just to qualify for the Saturday, and I accomplished that goal. And at that point, it did not matter to me how Saturday went. It was just a matter of, getting up there, doing my dances, and enjoying the ride.
Rosey, what are some of your earliest memories?
Well, I used to go watch my sister dance, so my earliest memories was running down, up and down the hill, going on the bouncy castles. One year I bought a pair of fake bagpipes, and I took them back to the hotel, and I started playing them, and the hotel owner was like, "Can you stop playing your bagpipe?" I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but my first dancing memory would be, this was when you had to wait till the afternoon to get your trophy presentation. So I danced in the morning. So I went away, me being me. I was running down, rolling down the hills on the bouncy castles. And by the time my mum got me, it was like we had no time to fix my hair. So I went up to the Cowal presentation stage with like grass in my hair and frizzy hair. It was honestly a mess.
Marielle, did you dance there before you were old enough to qualify?
I was trying to remember that. I think I did 1 year. I can't actually remember how old I was the first time I went to Cowal, but I think I went 1 year before I was old enough to qualify.
And do you remember the first time you did qualify?
I can't remember much about the dancing that day, but I do remember going, and I did qualify, but I didn't actually place at all in the finals. So what I remember, it was kind of actually a turning point for me, because I remember really clearly just sitting in the grandstand watching the results. And I kind of just realized at that moment that like my whole goal had been to win a medal at Cowal, but it didn't happen for me that year. And I kind of just sat there watching friends get their medals and thinking like, all right, yeah, this is the big leagues. Like I need to work a lot harder if I'm gonna actually be up there myself. So that, yeah, it was kind of a turning point for me where I started really working hard and just realizing how good the competition was and how hard I was gonna have to work.
When did the goal be to actually win the Worlds?
I don't think, it was kind of something that I was like, I always had that in the back of my mind as like, someday it would be really cool to win the Worlds, but it wasn't like a realistic goal, I would say. I was more just, like the next year after I didn't place in the finals, I was really just going to try and win a medal. I didn't really have, winning the Worlds in my sight. I was just thinking, I want to win a medal at Cowal. And yeah, it ended up better than that. I kind of overshot my goal, but yeah, I never really kind of realized that I even had a shot, because I was really just going for a medal at that point.
Beret, you have a kind of interesting story because you didn't go until you were 14 and you won when you were 15, right?
Yeah, so I kind of had the same experience as Marielle, where the first year that I went, I qualified, and then I didn't place on the Saturday, which again I didn't have any expectations. I didn't think I was going to place, so it didn't matter to me. But I was sitting in the grandstands kind of watching. I was like, okay, when I go back next year, I want to be up on that stage, just even getting that like a one Cowal medal from Saturday. And then the following year, I went back and I had the mindset. I didn't really think that I still could win it. It was more about, okay, I'm just going, like, my goal was top 6, to go from like not placing to top 6. And it worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to. I, ended up winning, which was amazing. And it was so strange to have that experience going from, like watching in the grandstands, watching the champions fling, and, observing, loving every second of it, to being on stage and being like dancing that champions fling.
Rosey, was that always the goal for you, to be up there dancing that champions fling?
Yeah, like ever since I was little, I always wanted to be a world champion. I never fully thought I could be one, but like it's always been in the back of my mind, one day I want to be like one of these like amazing dancers.
Was there a specific moment for you that you realized it was a realistic goal and you actually had a chance of winning?
Well, yes and no. Like I did think like I need to, like, this is my year, I need to dance my best, like to be able to do what I needed to do. But then another part of me was like, I don't know what can happen on the day. Like I went to LA and I went wrong in my fling, and I kicked my swords and went wrong in my quota. So it's totally out of your hands, and you just got to try your best. So yes and no, kind of.
And then this is for all of you, but Marielle, we'll start with you. What did it feel like dancing? You've done a few champions flings, but let's say your first champions fling.
Well, like I said, it was just surreal, because I really didn't have that in, I think maybe like, my teacher might have been more aware than I was about like that I actually had a shot, because I had, leading up to it, I had won a bunch of big championships, but I always thought like Cowal's a different beast. So I think doing that champions fling, and really every year, I think it just feels really surreal. Like it's kind of an overwhelming feeling, because you're so spent from the whole day. Like you've got so much adrenaline going all day, and you finish dancing and you kind of crash, and then you have this another rush of adrenaline when the results come out. And so doing that champions fling, I don't even know what I think when when it's going on. It's just like, it's just incredible, like being there and hearing the whole grandstand. I think that's one of the things that sort of stays with you, is like hearing the grandstand cheering and clapping along with you as you're dancing. It's like you could be as tired and as sore as anything, but just having that behind you, it's so amazing.
I think that is always everyone's, you have no clue that you're even capable of doing a fling that well, not warmed up at all. And then you do it and you're like, I couldn't know I could do that. I remember when we did ours, I was so results were over and I was really happy. I was so nervous. I was going to mess up one of the steps, because I was like, my brain is in a million places, and there's nothing more embarrassing I could do than like be good enough to do that and then mess it up. But it didn't happen. I did that at the USIR once though, but we won't discuss that. Beret, what was that moment like for you?
So my first one, I think surreal is definitely the word to describe it. My first one, it didn't click that I had won Worlds until probably about several weeks after Cowal, which is, it's something so big that you think that right away it's like, oh, yes, this is it. Like I accomplished like my lifelong goal. No, it did not click for several weeks. So as I was like getting ready to go do the champions fling, I was still just kind of like, oh, okay, this is happening. Like it didn't really seem real at all. And yes, it's also the stress of making sure you don't mess up the steps. And back in 2018, Marielle and Michelle were using my steps, like the first 3 steps of my fling, they had to change. So I'm getting to that 3rd step, and I could not remember for the life of me whether we were doing shake and turn or shake and rock. And it was definitely a bit of a panic moment, because I was kind of disconnected for a while, and then it hit in that moment, like, oh wait, I need to know what I'm doing right now. So luckily I didn't mess it up. It was good on me for remembering shake and rock in the last. It probably came in the like on the last count of the shake. I was like, oh, okay, go into a rock.
Okay.
So it was definitely just surreal is the word to describe it. It doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't feel real at all. It's just kind of it's something that happens, and then you look back at the video after, and it kind of clicks as, oh, that was, the Cowal Champions fling. At least for me. I don't know if that's kind of a universal experience, but for me it was definitely, it wasn't until I was watching the video after that it actually kind of clicked as what it was.
Definitely what you're saying about it. Like weeks after it, I just realized it hit me all at once. I was like, whoa, it's real. It's not. But yeah, I just remember thinking, once I heard the lineup, I was thinking, I have another fling to do with two icons in the dancing world. Like, I can't go wrong. I need to do this good. But I didn't really know what was going on in my head. Like, I was still coming to terms with the fact that I'd won and I was going to be dancing next to Marielle and Beret. But it, like Marielle said, the stand, clapping and cheating, there's no like feeling like it. It's always like a memory that you'll cherish forever.
Do you guys remember, do you look for people in the stands? Do you look for like friends and family when you're up there, or is it just, it's a blur of people?
Yeah, I always have to spot where my mom and dad are sitting, or my dance teacher is sitting, Rosalind. I have to spot them, or else I'm like, I can't dance, no, the pipe stop.
It's funny, having been there so many years, everyone is always in the exact same spot. So it's like, if I want to find someone, I know exactly where to look. And if I don't want to see anyone, I just kind of glaze over.
Yeah, I've learned where Linda sits. So when we were doing results and the trophy presentations, I knew where she was sitting, and then I had a vague idea of where my mom was sitting. So I was just kind of scanning, looking for my mom, and then looking at Linda and switching between the two, especially as results are happening. Kind of looking between the two as to see how they're reacting to it. That's always a fun game to play.
Linda will appreciate this, but I always can find her because I always see her hair. It's the first thing I see when I get up on stage. I can spot her from like a mile away, and then I see Linda, then I'm like, okay, I'm all good. And she'll appreciate that little tidbit. So this is for Marielle and Beret. Do you feel pressure when you return the year after you've won, or does that kind of build your confidence a little bit more?
I think probably a little bit of both. I know for myself, I've always had, it's kind of been one of my big struggles in my dance career is learning how to manage the pressure. Because when I was younger, I definitely didn't do a good job of it. I struggled a lot. So I think now I'm very aware of when I'm starting to put pressure on myself, and I don't think it affects me as much now. I just try and kind of use that in a good way, because I think pressure can be a good thing. Like, when you're going back the year after you won and you know that there's all these amazing dancers that are just like right at your heels, then it makes you push so much harder, and it kind of brings out the best dancing in everyone. So yeah, I think, and for myself, after having won it once, I think it kind of gives you the confidence that you actually can win it. Because I would say before I actually won it, if you would have asked me, I would say like, no, I can't win the world championships. Like, yes, I want to, but it's not going to happen. So I think it does give you confidence in that way. But yeah, definitely can have a lot of pressure, just not wanting to disappoint. I think right now for me, it's the pressure of not wanting to let myself down and just wanting to try and dance better every year that I come back. So it's more about that for me, I guess.
For me, I definitely was very nervous going into my second or third year, but the year after I had won my first. And anyone will tell you the morning of Worlds last year, I was a mess. I was shaky. I could not keep my head straight. It was not good. And I think that mostly came from when you're going into it at the top. There's only one way that you could go, and that's down. And it's there's definitely pressure to keep up at the top once you're there. It's a very different experience when you're going in as an underdog, or someone who, even if you didn't win, the last year, and you're still top 6 and you're just pushing towards that top spot. It's a very different experience than being at the top and being kind of expected, or wanting to maintain that. So I let the nerves get the best of me. It was not a good look, but I'm hoping that in future years I'll be able to manage that a little bit more, and not be so nervous. I'm still pretty new to this. I've only had one, Cowal after winning, so hopefully by next year it will have processed enough that when we get to 2021, I'll be a little calmer.
Speaking of that Cowal morning of, it's a crazy morning. Rosey, do you have any superstitions, or what does your morning routine look like?
Well, I have loads of superstitions. I'm quite like that. So, I always like to go to Puck's Glen. We call it the Fairy Woods because when I was little, I used to put my feet in the water, and we used to say, "Oh, it gives you magic pointy toes," and it's always just stuck with me. So I always do that. And then I go down to the sea the night before we compete with my dance school, and we just ice our legs off and just chill. And then I always like to be at the stadium early. I would have to be early, or else I'm always nagging, "Come on, Mum, we need to leave." But another weird one is I always have to have chocolate milk and a baby bell. It's the weirdest thing ever, but I swear. And then I have one with Beret. I have to touch her USA rep jacket and eat some trail mix. But
You have a lot.
they're so weird. I could go on. That's like the main ones.
I used to have a specific cereal that I would actually pack in my bag from Canada and bring it over. But I think my routine has kind of changed since then. I would say more than superstitions, superstitions, I have like a little stuffed owl that I bring with me that my husband gave me a couple years ago when he couldn't make it one year. So I've been bringing it ever since. But other than that, I'm just like with the routine, I'm very routined in what I do. Like every year, it's kind of changed gradually over the years, but I like the week leading up to Cowal, I practice the exact same days in the week. I just pretty much have the same preparation. I eat the exact same meal the night before. Like I've had the exact same supper the night before the finals, probably for the past 15 years. So I'm very specific about that. And the same, like my routine, I always get there a few hours before. I always eat my lunch like exactly 2 hours before I dance. I'm like very like timed that way. But I don't have too many superstitions, I don't think.
Barrett, what does your morning routine look like?
So I definitely, it kind of varies between, the years, but it's kind of the same general structure, where it's, getting to the competition early. I kind of warm up in the same way. I like having my headphones in and just chilling to music as I'm warming up, doing like a nice long warm up to make sure I am like thoroughly stretched and warmed up. And then going over things with Linda. The way that I get dressed is and do my makeup is very specific, and I've been asked before what that very specific way is, and I could not tell you. But I know when I do it wrong. I know when something is off. Like if I am doing my makeup and I do my eyebrows before my eyeliner, or vice versa. Like I said, I'm not really sure what order I do it in, but if I do something like that, I definitely know something is off, and I have to like go back and fix it. But it's like I said, it's not like, okay, I need to do this, and this. It just kind of happens. I'm used to doing things in a certain way. As for Superstitions, like Rosey said, the rep jacket and the trail mix is a great one. That one just started this past year, but it's definitely a good one. And then I have a little bag of like trinkets that I've collected over the years, just little charms, and I have like a golden horseshoe in there. And I have brought a little stuffed animal with me to every competition since Cowal 2018. And I got it in Dunoon at a little store. And I've kept it, I had it with me the day of the finals, and it worked. So I'm not going to question the magic of the little stuffed animal. It's a little squeaky toy, so a couple squeaks of it, the morning of. I'm not going to question its magic. I'm just going to continue keeping it with me. I mean, other than that, I wouldn't say I'm like super superstitious the morning of a competition, but like I said, I definitely have a way that things are supposed to go.
Do you guys have any other really standout memories from Cowal that are not like winning or the champions flings? Just anything else that pops into your mind?
I would say like the thing that I just have always loved about Cowal is the atmosphere. Like it's so familiar, and I think there's something just about, I actually love it being outdoors, which I know is not a very popular view.
I love that too.
Would probably rather be indoors. And even though like some years it's raining and it can be cold, like I come prepared now. Like I have layers and layers of clothes that I wear because I just like to always be sweating, which is kind of a hard thing when you're in Scotland. But I've always just loved being outside because I find it sort of takes a little bit of the tension away when it's at like a games and you've got other things going on. And I think just like when you're on stage and you're looking out at the grandstand and you just like, sometimes I have these moments. I think also like the longer I dance, I have moments like just being able to appreciate how many amazing dancers have danced on that stage and just like how lucky you feel just to be able to stand on stage and dance, I think is just, I don't know. I have those moments sometimes like right before I start to dance, then I try and kind of remind myself of that and be like, this is so amazing. Like, thinking of all the people, all the dancers, the great dancers who've danced on those boards is pretty cool.
I really like the like getting to see my friends from all over the world. There are very few opportunities throughout the year that all of us are actually together. And usually it's, only that 2 to 3 weeks in Scotland that I get to see everyone all in one spot. So for little standout moments, I can definitely think of, a couple dozen really, of just like little interactions with people, whether it be, a little like fist bump before the sword just to, a little good luck, or getting to see all of these amazing dancers who I've looked up to for my entire dancing career, getting to watch them, even just from, backstage, kind of peeking out, and especially this past year in 2019, because I was up at the juniors dance at the same time as the adults, kind of peeking out and getting to watch the adults dance. It gave me some motivation where I was like, okay, I'm going to go up and I want to do that. So it's just a bunch of little things that kind of add up to a really great weekend. The atmosphere of Cowal is just it's unlike any other competition, and it's very hard to describe to someone what exactly about it makes it so different. It's when we're backstage, you would expect it's also just very different from what you would expect, because when we're backstage, you would expect that everything is super like high strung and but it's really not. We still have the friendships and the bonds, and those are kind of supersede any sort of competition. Obviously we're still there to do our best and hopefully win, but it's totally different from what I expected going in my first time, where I was thinking, okay, everyone's going to be keeping to themselves and it's going to be totally serious. But no, we're backstage cracking jokes and you know, still taking it seriously, but it's just so different from any other competition. I don't know how to describe it other than just, you know, a collection of little moments that are amazing. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with both of these there. Like, I love how it's outside and it's so different from every competition. Like, I know, like, in America and Canada, there's always a separate area where you warm up and stuff. But in Scotland, it's normally just a hall and you've got your mum sitting next to you while you're in the lineup area. But I love how Cowal, you can just go to your warm up area and your lineup area and focus and be with all your friends. Like, I think some of, like, my favorite memories from Cowal are in that backstage area, like Beret said, fist bumps before the swords, and how, like, you think we would be so uptight, but we're still making jokes and telling each other what we had for dinner the night before. Like, it's so funny. But I love how it's outside. Like, it takes all the pressure away from you. Not all of it, but it kind of calms you down. It kind of makes you feel like you're more in Scotland, if that makes sense.
It is quite a unique backstage area because I have, you know, everyone's always nervous, but it's always been just everyone is so nice and willing to help each other. And
Yeah.
especially, one thing that really stands out to me is I remember the year I won, is that it was really close and I didn't know if I had won until, because they didn't use, I think now they break it right after, but they didn't back then. It wasn't a tie, but anyways, when we went back, I didn't realize until they did the lineup that I had won. And then I started getting kind of emotional and Marielle was like, don't cry, you're about to get your picture taken. She's like, lean your head back. And I was like, oh, you're right, okay. But you were like an old pro. You were like, wait 5 minutes. I was like, okay. But there are just so many little memories like that. And hopefully, I mean, not being able to be there this year, I think it's really hard for a lot of dancers, but we all do get really nervous and uptight about it. And hopefully next year, when everyone's back, we'll all be able to have that moment that Marielle was talking about where you're up there and you're just grateful and realizing you're not just stressed about your dance, but you're actually like, I'm at Cowal and I'm on the boards with the best dancers in the world. And that's something I think a lot of us don't really, did you do that when you were young or did it take you till you were older to kind of think about that?
No, I think when I was young, it was more just like crossing my fingers, just like, please get through this dance without mistakes. Like, I think, yeah, that's something that I've kind of developed as I've gotten older and just more mature and just had more experience with it. And I think I've just seen a lot of dancers over the years kind of been crushed sometimes, you know, like their dreams are crushed when they get injured. And it's like, you're standing there and thinking like, wow, how can I be nervous when, you know, my friend next to me just wants to be up here dancing? Or, you know, other people, especially from Canada, like we can't always afford to go to Cowal every year. So I was really lucky to be able to go pretty much every year to Cowal. And so just being there, I think, yeah, just trying to be grateful for the experience. And I think it makes you dance better too, because if you appreciate being able to dance, you just kind of let the nerves and the pressure go and just try and have your best performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. The last thing I wanted to ask you guys is that you are the 3 current world champions, and I think a lot of young dancers are going to be watching this and looking up to you guys for some advice without the competitions and everything right now. What would you guys say to those dancers who are wanting to still stay into competing and waiting for that next year to come around? What advice do you have? Marielle, let's start with you.
Oh, I think just remember why you dance. Like it's a really hard time right now where so many of the events that keep us going, and especially like being able to see your friends. I think that's probably the hardest part, is not being able to see all the people you compete against, and the people, like Beret was saying, that you go to Scotland and you only see them once a year. Now you're only going to see them once in 2 years. But I think just remembering why you dance is really important, and just try and have that keep you going. Just keep working hard on your dancing, and the time will pass faster than you think. So I think, yeah, not having this year, I think we're all going to come back next year, and maybe everyone will be standing on stage just thinking about all the great dancers that came before them, and not worry about the nerves, because they'll be thinking, you know what, we couldn't even be here last year. So just being able to appreciate being there, being with our friends and dancing. I think, yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, so everyone, I definitely feel, the whole losing motivation thing. It's really hard to stay motivated when, especially, Highland dancers tend to be very competitive people. We're, for the most part, from what I've seen, motivated by competitions, results, especially at a younger age where it's the vision of, I want to be holding that trophy at the end of the day, that kind of keeps us going. So definitely, like Marielle said, remembering why you dance, and just continuing to work on the little things that we didn't have time for in the past. I know that for me, there are a couple of corrections that they're definitely needed fixed, but there were more pressing things that needed fixed more while we were still competing. But taking this time to kind of figure out what is the best way to correct those little things, whether it be supporting foot turnout, or making sure that you're elevating elevating properly, getting more bounce, the little things where it's like, okay, I have a competition next week, I don't want to be doing an insane amount of strength training. We have all the time in the world now. So that's definitely helped me through, is just focusing on, I can use this time to focus on, for me, it's supporting foot turnout, making sure that when I do, it's something that, throughout the year I work on, but I never really have a chance to absolutely focus on, because I have so many other corrections within the set steps where I need to make sure that on this movement I'm doing this and then this and then that. So, it kind of gets pushed aside, but it's definitely something where if I have something that I can focus on, and it's a very, something that I can see improving. So, at the beginning of filming myself at the beginning of quarantine, and now being able to see the difference is kind of motivating me to continue going on. So just, finding little ways like that you can, stay motivated through all of this. I know it's tough. We're all feeling it, especially as it drags on. And I know out here we're canceled throughout the rest of the year, and I've heard a couple cancellations in January. So it's going to, this is kind of our new reality right now, and it sucks, but there's not much we can do about it other than, make sure that our mindsets are positive and just keep working hard.
Yeah, we can't change what's going on. So I've really just taken the time to really pull apart everything. Like Beret said, just be the best version of you. If there's little things that you didn't have time to work on them now, or even look further into your dancing to see what you can do, like skipping and stuff, and yoga, and just plyometrics and stuff, all them little bits that you don't really have time for, you can now have time to do them. And just remembering what the things that come along with dancing, all the friendships, the memories, the trips. Dancing can take you all over the world, and yeah, you might not get all over the world right now, but it'll come soon. I'm sure we'll get back to normal and stuff, and everything will be fine again. But just really realizing why you dance and being grateful for it, and understanding fully what the concept of dancing is, really realizing what each dance means. That's weird, but I really like to know the history behind it and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining us. You guys are huge inspirations to so many dancers, myself included, and I can't wait to see you all at Cowal, hopefully next year.